Hi, welcome back to my channel. This is Jennifer Scrappy and Kane. Today I'm sharing a double 8.5 by 11 layout. Playing along with Kit Conspiracy. We have a new kit for this week. I have 4 photos that I'm starting off with today. These are 4 by 6 photos. So of course it's going to have to go on a double 8.5 by 11. My older son has all printed photos in his album, so I don't want to reprint them. I have a cut file from Peartree Cutfiles. It says support wildlife, raise boys, which I thought was kind of fitting for my son and my nephew who are playing along with my brother-in-law. And I have a few little stickers here. I'm only going to pull a couple of those stickers off. This stencil here is from Aall Create. And then I have this paper pack from Some Assemblage Required. This is MK Gunn's paper. So she created this paper. I was so excited to receive this. And a lot of it has really great background papers. There's really cute little icons on the papers for some of them, like ships and planes. And mainly, I'm going to use a lot of the distressed papers. Um, that's just my preference for papers as far as papers go. There's cut apart sheet, which is like that one. There is another one that has little icons on it also. Neither one of those I'm really going to cut out and use. I'm going to use some of the florals off of one of them, or the leaves and flower. I don't know if they're really florals. I think there is florals on that one. Kind of going through it kind of fast. She has a full unboxing on her channel of it, so I will leave that up to her. But this one here is another little icon sheet, and then I'm going to bring in Echopark because I need a little bit more brighter, darker colors to go along with this paper pack. And these papers actually match perfectly as far as the colors go. You'll see here, I'm going to bring in the plaid one back in. And this orange, burnt orange color really matches that plaid. And then there's this star paper, which I only have these 2 scraps of the larger stars. I have this full 12 by 12, but I end up not using that one after all since it's a white background. And then this blue one matches the blue also in that plaid. So I'm going to use that also. So here in a minute, I'm going to get started on the layout. And I brought in 2 of the papers that were kind of sort of the same. They're not exactly the same, but they match because, of course, they're from her collection. And one of them's a little more distressed than the other one. So in order to kind of, I guess, add a little bit more detail to it and kind of cover up the idea that they're 2 separate papers, I'm going to stencil on the background. So I'm going to use that hexagon stencil, and then I'm using Distress Oxide at first. I will end up bringing Penny for Your Thoughts in, which is a Shimmer's paint, because I just really like the darker brown versus, and I like the little bit of shimmer that it adds to it versus the Distress Oxide. The Distress Oxide's just kind of flat and just kind of there. And I really like the shimmer and shine that the Shimmers adds to it instead. So that's what I'm going to go with instead. You can see me moving the stencil around. That's because I'm trying to line up the hexagons, or at least get it so that it kind of sort of looks lined up. And at first you'll see I only do like a section on the left and a section on the right, but I'm actually going to do it all through the middle also. But I will come back in and that will be completely finished. That was just something that I didn't film when I decided to go ahead and fill in the middle. I was waiting for my camera to charge, so I had to let it recharge, and I was too impatient to wait. So I just went ahead and did it. But I did it exactly the same way. As you can see here, I'm just putting a little bit of the shimmers on the desk and then putting it on the sponge dauber and stenciling it through the stencil. And this one here, I kind of put a little bit too far over. You'll see here in a minute. It kind of leaves like a little gap in between these 2 hexagons. But it's okay because the photos are going to take up a lot of real estate on the layout. Since again, they're 4 by 6 and they are pretty like the full screen or the full section of the 4x6 photo. So there's not much room of like area to trim off or anything. I do trim each of them down just slightly, mainly to like, I believe they're like 4.5 by 5.5. And then there's one that's a little bit smaller than even that. I didn't want to cut off a whole lot. And also because of the angle of the photo, I would be chopping off my brother-in-law's head because of the way he's laying in the photo, or chopping off the boys' heads because of the way they're sitting on top of him. So I decided just to go ahead and go with it and just let it take up. I'm just bringing in the brown Stays On ink. I want each of those strips to be inked up on the sides. I already inked up the star paper and all the way around the edges of the 8.5 by 11, except for down the middle. And you can see where I also added in the stenciling in the middle of it. And these little strips here are about 1/4 of an inch or so. A little bit less than 1/4 of an inch is actually going to show on the red one, I believe. But I'm just going to place those on the left and the right side, and that just kind of gives, for me, it just kind of gives like an ending to the layout, a starting and an ending when you do it on the left and the right side, and it kind of brings them together. So that's all I'm doing here. I'm just going to lay this one here down, and I tore the edge of the star paper, and I used both of those strips that I had. They were different sizes, but I just tore them, made them about the same size. And when you're tearing, you can't really control where you're tearing. You can try, but and for the most part, it lines up. It's fine. So this one here, I'm going to put over here on the left-hand side and do the same thing. And then I'm going to add, like I said, I'll put the red one down first, and then I put the blue one on top of it. So the red one is just peeking out from behind the blue one, or the orange. I'm not sure what you call that color. I guess it's more of like a rust orange color. But either way, it matches MK's plaid, so that's what I was going for, is it just added a little bit more color to the layout. Then up here, I need to just add a little bit more ATG so it sticks down. It sticks pretty well to the Shimmer's paint. The Shimmer's paint is not one of the most hardest ones to stick to, especially when you stencil it like this. It's going to stay. It's okay. I don't use a whole lot of liquid glue just because I don't want to warp the papers any more than they already kind of are from doing the shimmer stenciling. And I haven't really found that the ATG doesn't stick to the Shimmer's paint as long as it's, not thick, which this one here is not thick at all. It's just a really light layer of the Shimmer's paint since, I just stenciled it on. So now I'm going to map my photos. I'm going to map this one here in the plaid. So it's just going to get one single layer. I used the cover sheet that MK included with her collection, and it was just white on the other side, so I used it to map my photos. Since I always map my photos in white cardstock, I went ahead and used that since I had it, and I didn't want to waste, more paper, just throw it away. I figured use it as the white cardstock for the photos. So that's why you can see there's like a design on the back of the photos. That's all it is it's the cover sheet from the paper pack. So here I cut a few hexagons from the photo mats also. Again, just kind of saving paper. And I'm going to use that other little boy collection later in the month. So I definitely wanted to save as much as I could of it without using too much. So I'm going to place this photo of the two boys up here. And like I said, that's my oldest son and my nephew. They're both adults now. And they're playing on my brother-in-law. And my brother-in-law is not the biological father of my nephew, and he would never know that because he treats him as his son. And he also treats my son as his son. He's very good to both boys. So that's definitely why I thought this cut file was kind of fitting, support wildlife, raise boys. And As you can see, he's just laying on the floor and they're jumping on him. And they were just having fun. It was one of those early morning things. They were just playing around in their pajamas, and Uncle Gary was the trampoline. So I'm going to slice this photo in half. I'm not trying to cut through anybody, but at the same time, it kind of draws your eye to both layouts and makes it look more like it's, one layout versus two. And I do use D-ring albums, so in the album, of course, it's going to be separated. But since I'm not cutting through anybody's face or anything like that, I think it looks fine. So here I'm going to put a little bit of ATG as long as I can get it to work on the back of the cut file. I did pop it up on play foam, as you can see. And then I'm going to add ATG. I already added ATG. I'm going to add Scotch tacky glue is what I use in the fine liner bottle. And I'm going to add that on top of the play foam. And that'll hold a little bit longer than the ATG will by itself. The ATG will stick, but it won't stick long term. And you can definitely pull it up very easily. So I don't like to leave it with just ATG. I'm going to add this other photo over here. And like I said, they take up a lot of real estate since they're 4x6s. Of course, I could have reprinted them, but I don't want to waste, photos that are perfectly fine. So here I'm laying out the little stickers. They were like 3D popped up stickers, but I pulled off the little 3D that the company had put on them, and I'm just going to glue them straight to the photos. I don't want them popped up any more than they were. There's no reason to pop them up anymore. And now I'm just adding those little hexagons that I punched out of the paper with the die cuts. I ended up pulling out smaller die cuts of hexagons to die cut those, since I had the larger ones and I decided those were too large. And you can see over on the right hand side, I have all the inside parts of Wildlife Boys. And I'm actually going to keep Wild Boys. I throw the life part away just because I don't plan on using those letters. But I do keep Wild Boys, and I might use that on a future layout. So I went ahead and kept those letters. But other than that, that's pretty much it. So I'm going to flip this one here. It says, what does it say? Raise a sun. And then equals the best adventure is what that little sticker says there with the 2 circles. And then rough and tough. And then best buds. And I thought all of those were kind of fitting. And then the love you, the little heart that matches. It's the same kind of rusty orange color. And so I'm just laying all these little hexagons down. You can see over to the right, I still have 3 more hexagons. And in the close-ups, you'll see I went ahead and added those 3 hexagons after the fact. At first, I was like, I don't need any more. So I thought I was kind of done. And then I had to return back to work since I work a split shift. I had came home and, worked on the layout for a while and then returned back to work. And when I came back home, I decided to add the hexagons. And I also realized that I forget to hold up the layout and actually show you a close-up of the layout. But that's pretty much how the layout is going to end up, except for the hexagons that I add on. And here in just a minute, I will have close-ups, and you guys can enjoy seeing the layout a little bit close up. But I really enjoyed working with MK's papers. I love doing Kit Conspiracy. I should have 2 more layouts during the week that will be using the same collection. And then I will have a few other layouts this week also. So please come back by. Like and subscribe if you liked what you saw. And I will leave a link down below to some assemblage required. I'm not sure if this kit is still available, but you can pick up your own if it is. Bye.